Hello guys, and welcome back to my final video for my first block of my elective placement. Now, this is where it gets a little bit confusing. So I've just started back my frontline placement, so I'm on my last week basically now on my frontline placement for my whole block. So my first block of placement, I'm on my last week. This video is going to be dedicated for my CCU placement, which you guys are up to date at the moment. Basically, there's been a lot going on. I fell behind on videos. I've been very busy, starting back on the front line and stuff like that. I've had a busy couple of days where I went back home. There's been a lot of going on at home, in my home life kind of thing. So if I go into too much detail, there's been a lot going on basically. So I just thought I'd be honest with you guys. I'm actually a week behind now, so I'm going to try and catch up. So I'm going to record a video today, which will go up on, is it Sunday today? This will go up on Saturday, and then I'm going to do another video which will go on tomorrow, Sunday at 6 o'clock. So we're kind of back in shape again. So this video is going to be about my CCU day 2, and then my final day 3 on the coronary care unit, and then Sunday's video will be about me starting back on frontline. So if you're new around here, make sure you do subscribe and like down below, and follow me on social media, which is student_Kyle_, no it's not, start again. Instagram is student_paramedic_Kyle. Twitter I don't really use, but go down below, sometimes I do use it and stuff like that, and I will answer questions on there. I've also put a poll, I don't know how to say that, on my YouTube, which is basically what I want to do is people are asking this kind of the same sort of questions, relevant questions, really good questions, but I'm getting the same questions on social media. So what I'm thinking about doing is every Wednesday or it's kind of a set day, do a live stream and sort of just answer the questions, sort of a sit down video like this, and just go over the questions, and I think that'll be quite good. You know, get to talk to you guys as well, not face to face, but camera to camera, if that makes sense. Talk to you guys and sort of answer the questions as we go along, sort of like an informal sort of cup of tea chat, which I think will be really good. So let's get into day 2 first. So day 2 I felt so much better, because obviously day 1 I was kind of really nervous starting back on a ward for the first time. So day 1 was on the Monday, this is day 2 now. So day 2 I finished my shift on day 1, came back about 10 o'clock at night time. No, finished at 7 o'clock, so I got back about 9:30, had something to eat, seen Lucy, went to bed about 11:15, 12. I was up again at 5, so I was quite tired, as you can imagine, but I was really looking forward to the day, because I knew when I went in that they said that we probably won't have any more discharges or any new sort of people coming in, so I knew that I already knew these guys when I was going back, and I was really looking forward to seeing how they were doing, how they were recovering from whatever happened to them the day before, and while they was admitted into hospital, I wanted to kind of get to know a bit more about their stories. So I got the first train, got there early, got a cup of tea. I actually knew where the ward was this time, so there was no faffing about trying to find the ward, for example. That was really good. Actually went straight there and was early. For last time on day 1 I couldn't find the ward, had to ask people. I was going around in like a massive sort of maze. I could not find the ward for the life of me, but now day 2 went straight there, so I guess that's a positive. The same people were there, different nurses, the night staff, but all the same patients were there, so I was already a bit more familiar. Instead of the nurses saying, right, let's do this, I was already doing it. For example, doing the observations, I already knew that after the medication round, the observations were done every 2 hours and stuff like that, so I knew then what to do. I felt that was really good. ECG wise, I was a bit more comfortable, because, for example, when I first did the ECG, it wasn't like the sticky dots that we used on the ambulance in the ambulance service. They were like strips, and you just like clip them onto the strip, which was really confusing at the start. But like I said, day 2 now, I kind of got the gist of doing that. I got used to doing that. The BMs, where you had to scan the barcodes and stuff like that. You had to scan the patient's barcode on his wrist, and then scan the strips and stuff like that. It was so confused on my first day. Second day, I was straight in there doing all that. Didn't need any nurses to sort of assist me with doing so. So really big positive. ECG wise, I felt a bit more familiar with different rhythms and stuff like that. I said, is this this, is this that, and you know, the nurses sometimes are like, actually no, it's this, and I felt a bit more positive with how the day went, and I felt as though not only with the patients but getting to know a bit more about why they're in here, the pathophysiology behind that sort of situation, and asking more questions from the nurses. Day one I was really nervous, like I said before. Day two I felt as though I kind of knew a little bit what I was doing, and I knew the same patient, so it was kind of nice. I then had 1 hour lunch, which was brilliant, because last time I only had half an hour. It was quite quiet on the ward because one patient went to Worcester to have a stent fitted, so they couldn't do it at the hospital that I was at, so he was then transferred to another hospital as like a day sort of procedure to have a stent fitted, and then he was being brought back by ambulance. So we only have 4 patients on the ward anyway. We were then down to 3. Another patient was then discharged to another ward that wasn't so intense. You know, the intensity wasn't as high, for example. So then he was released, and then another patient went to Worcester to have the exact same thing done as the first patient, a stent fitted. So we literally had one patient at about 2 o'clock. So there was literally not that many things to do. The observations every 2 hours for this lady, but other than that, completely nothing to do really. So I took advantage of that, had an hour's lunch, and then I came back. The nurses went over my placement book with me, which I'm going to do another video on because there's so much to cover in the placement book. But we have an ECG book somewhere, which is nowhere to be seen. It's somewhere. Yeah, I don't know where it is. It's somewhere, but basically it's like an ECG book and have different rhythms. So there'll be a rhythm on the paper, and there'll be like a stepwise approach that you need to follow to sort of answer this. And I went through the nurses with that, and I used their knowledge to sort of answer the questions. I did it, and then they kind of said, actually, this is how I would do it, and you're right or you're wrong. And I found that was quite beneficial for me, because when I'm on the road, I'm not going to have a specialist cardiologist there with me, but the stepwise approach that they use, I could take away with me. And I feel as though if you're a nurse watching this, and if you're definitely a student paramedic watching this, or a qualified paramedic watching this, and you've never gone into CCU, I would definitely try and arrange maybe an elective day on that ward, and maybe not a week worth, but a couple of days, just so you can get used to. I felt as though I benefited a lot from this placement, and I would definitely recommend doing so. So, after this, really, did the book for a little while, did the hourly observation, the 2 hour observations. The patients didn't come back until about 7 o'clock, so by 6 o'clock there wasn't really anything for me to do. So then I was released, finally, because it felt like a very long day, because it dragged a lot, if you can imagine, because if there's only one patient, there wasn't really that many things to do. And I wasn't in the next day, so they said, oh, you know, go home and do a bit of pre-reading on angina, an MI, and a couple of other conditions that may affect the cardiovascular system. And I had to bring that back for Thursday, when that was the day that I was next in, kind of thing. So Tuesday I was in, Wednesday I was off, so I had like a kind of study day as such. Didn't count towards my hours, but they just said kind of go back and study this, which I did. And that was the end of day 2. Day 3, same thing, same time, got there early, had a cup of tea, did the pre-reading that I was going to do on the train anyway, because I completely forgot to do it on the Wednesday. So I did that on the train in the morning, brought my Ross and Wilson book and my pathophysiology book, which was over there. Did some of that on the way there. Didn't ask me about it. I think they completely forgot as well. I gave them in the morning, and it was a complete different nurse, and she didn't know anything about it. So I just sort of said that blah blah blah, said to do this. She went over it with me, and by the time I came back, there was 2 new admissions. So there was 2 new people that came from, one from ambulance and one that was already in hospital that got admitted onto that ward. One had a heart attack and was having a stent fitted that day on the Thursday, and another lady, she had heart failure, and she was really poorly. The good thing about this day was, because it was quite quiet, which I'll mention in a moment, I got a lot of things done that I wouldn't ever do on the road, for example. The lady that, let me try to think, the guy that was having the MI went to Worcester again. So the three people that was on my day 2, the thing I was talking about day 2, the guy that went to Worcester and had his stent fitted, he was discharged. So a new person came in, so that was the lady with the heart failure. The other lady that went to Worcester was then discharged as well. She wasn't discharged, she was then sent to another ward. So that's when the guy that having the stent fitted came in as well. The guy that was then having a stent fitted then went to Worcester, so there was only 3 people on the ward. And the lady who was having heart failure was under the investigation for heart failure. She was then seen by the heart failure nurse, so I sort of liaised with the heart failure team. They were really, really good, really, really interesting, and I learned a lot from them. As a student paramedic on the road, I've seen a couple of cases of heart failure. And it was really, really good to actually hear how they deal with this sort of thing, the protocols they have to follow, and it was really, really, really interesting. I'll definitely, if you're watching this video and you're kind of interested in that, have a look at the heart failure team, have a little Google, and sort of see their, the roles and responsibilities they do in the hospital, because it's really, really, really interesting. And I'm definitely going to go back and sort of arrange a day that I follow the heart failure nurses, if that's available for me. So, yet again, the ward was quite quiet. I mean, it's a good thing because they're not needing us, for example. They are very poorly, but 2 people were then sent to Worcester. There was a guy that was having a stent fitted, and I think another guy that was having an angiogram. I can't remember what the other guy had. He was then sent to Worcester as well, so there was only 2 people on the ward. The other person that was on the ward, she could sort of walk around, so she was spent most of the time, to be honest, out of hospital. She went out for the day with her husband, so we only had 1 patient that day. So me and the nurses went over my book, the ECG book as well, sort of finished that off because I needed to complete that by the end of that placement block. Completed that, went over my hours and stuff like that, and I said this is what I need to do, so because I basically need to do that last shift, and I was over my hours basically. And then they said, we haven't actually got that much to do today, do you want me to sort of see what more jobs you can do? And as she said that, a consultant came in and he said, well, I haven't got anything to do today, I'm on my own, a student didn't show up, a medical student didn't show up, do you want to sort of follow me for the day? And I was like, yes please. So I spent that day shadowing a doctor or consultant around when he was like sort of a bleep. So when someone is in assistance of a doctor or needs the consultant, they bleep them, and then he sort of goes to whoever's around the hospital. It was really, really interesting to see how a consultant would then approach a patient and gain a really, really good history. And I feel as though, as a student as well, I'm very, very lucky to have that. And like I said in my video beforehand, and if you haven't seen that video, definitely go and check it out, that doing these elective placements, sometimes you feel completely out of your comfort zone, and sometimes feel as though, is this really beneficial for me? But then you have the situations where I'm shadowing a consultant, I would never get that on the road. Never. So I guess this placement has been absolutely amazing, and I've learned so much. But shadowing the consultant, then I was not just in CCU, around the entire hospital as well. After this, I think I was shadowing for four hours. And then he sent me off to, it was like a defib check. So what they do is they check the defib that is fitted in the chest, and the amount of stuff that the defib reads is absolutely amazing. The technology that people have come up with, honestly, I just can't put it into words for this video. But like I said, if you can arrange something like that, definitely go and spend maybe a day or half a day watching defibs being checked, because you would be shocked at the amount of stuff and the amount of knowledge that the guys know. But not only that, how this little device can monitor the heart and stuff like that. I mean, I think it had 10 years battery life. I couldn't believe it. So nearer the time say for example, when they have yearly checks, if the defib picks up different rhythms or stuff like that, that maybe the heart's going too fast or too slow, it sort of monitors it. So it will record it, and it will sort of record for like a minute or two and sort of log it into the system, if that makes sense. And if this occurs often after the yearly check, it would then be pampered with and sort of adjusted by the cardiologist and stuff like that. Every year that is then reviewed, but when it gets to nearer the time, so when you're in your last year, it's every 3 months and stuff like that, and then they will then look on to change it when their battery life is coming to its end. And I just felt that was amazing to literally see that. I felt as though I couldn't believe it, and yet again, I would never have seen it on the road. So CCU for me was an amazing experience, and I would 100% recommend, if you're looking to go and gain some experience in the, cardiology wise, in the cardiovascular system like that, definitely consider CCU. If you have enjoyed this video, make sure you like and subscribe down below. Comment down below to let me know if you guys are up for the Wednesday stream or a set day stream where I answer the questions for you guys if you have any. But also, drop down in the comments the sort of things you want me to include in videos. Are you enjoying these sort of set thing approach and documenting my journey properly, or do you want me to do more clinical stuff like that as well? I'll definitely sort of be willing to do more stuff like that if you guys want me to. But thank you for liking this video and sort of staying till the end really. I will see you in Sunday's video where I'm back on frontline placement. That's my dad.